Hello, so in this video we will be continuing the series on the Beginner's Guide to SDL2 in COBOL. So this is the fourth video, so if you're just joining in this video, you're going to need to go to github.com Programming Rainbow Beginner's Guide to SDL2 in COBOL, and you're going to want to clone that repository. It's this repository right here. So you want to clone this repository. We will be working from the source in the source directory, which is just going to be the make file, or the main.cobol file right in here. Show it real quick. We're going to be working with this file, but we are going to be working with the source that was from the third video. So this is the fourth video. We're continuing on with the source from the third video. So you're going to want to grab the source code if you're just starting with this one from video number 3 and copy it into the source folder. And that will get you up to date with us. So our first video, we're just talking about how to set up SDL in COBOL and make file and creating a simple project. In the second video, we opened a window. In the last video that we did, the third video, we were able to close the window. So in this video, we are going to be creating an image and displaying it as our background image. So we are going to be doing a couple things in this. We're going to be adding a new module to SDL, which is the SDL Image module. And then we'll be initializing that and shutting it down. We'll be loading an image, freeing that image, and then we will be displaying the image. So as I said, I'm working with the main.cbl file that's in the source directory. And let's look at the first thing that we need here. So we are going to initialize the image module with image init, just like we did with SDL init. And it also takes a flag. And the flag that we're going to be using is image init PNG. This flag we're going to use because we're just working with PNG images. So if you just use the base SDL system, you do have access to loading bitmap images, but I want to work with PNG images, so we're going to be using this flag right here. And this is going to be another thing that we're going to set as a constant, because this would be a preprocessor macro in the image, or the SDL_image.h header file. So I'm going to set that as a constant for this program. So I'll do that here, just like we did with SDL init everything. What I want is image init, and I want PNG, because that's the name of it. Image init PNG, yes. That's the flag that I want to send into this. And I'm not actually sending that flag in. I'm going to send in the integer that's equivalent to that flag. So for this one, the number that is on the image init PNG is just 2. It's just the number 2. So I'll just copy this line right here. Okay, fix this one here. And this one is image init PNG. And this is all capitalized. Not because it's COBOL, because it's because it's actually capitalized in SDL. We have image init PNG. It's going to be a binary int, and the value of this one is just going to be 2. And again, you can look through the SDL_image.h file that should be on your system, and it will be defined in that file, or the different ones. This one is just 2. Okay, so that gives us access to a flag. And so what we need to do is we need to move down to our initialize section. And I'm going to initialize everything together before I even create the window and create the render. So right here, we initialized SDL, and then we checked to make sure that it was initialized. So right below it, I'm going to be doing something very similar, but I'm going to be initializing the image module. So it's almost the exact same. So I'm going to copy this. I kind of helps me with all the indentation and everything. So this is image. Image init, and I'm using the flag that we're passing in, which is image init PNG. There it is. And we are still returning, we're using our variable that we use to capture our return values. So we're using that same variable here. And now we are going to check it. And I believe we're checking it the exact same. Let's see what the return is. What this returns is it actually returns the flags that were actually initialized. So we are going to say if our return value is not equal, so we're looking for the error case. So we're saying if it's not equal to the original value that we sent in. So if this return value is not equal to the flag that we actually sent in initially, that is going to be image. Double check. It's going to be image init PNG. So we want this return value to be that. Now, in the other videos, I get a lot more complicated into how to properly check this value. I am going to be a little bit lazier on this one, and I'm just going to check it against the initial value that came in. But if you watch the C video, I don't think I have the C++ video up yet, but I do have a CPP2 video, and I do explain it, the binary and all that, but this is just going to be good enough for now. It should be just fine to check it against the original value. And our error message should be initializing SDL2 image, or we can just say image. Oops. Module is actually called image. Okay, so that is going to bring image online. And the way that we shut it down, so that's image. The way that we shut it down is just calling the image quit, and this is returning void and it's taking no parameters. So I'm going to capture this void anyway, because like I said, if sometimes COBOL might assume, depending on what value it got back, that something had failed or something. So I'm just going to capture the value no matter what, and that will take care of that issue. So that will be in the cleanup. So we have cleanup and exit. And the first thing we're doing is freeing memory. I'm going to let that free. And then I'm going to be shutting down the modules in reverse order. So the first thing I started was SDL. And then after I started that, I started the image module. So first thing I'm going to shut down is the image module and then the SDL. So the last thing I started up will be the first thing that I shut down. Excuse me. So I'm going to put it right here above the SDL quit, and that's going to be what I'm going to be doing the whole time I clean up this project. So this is a call. Oh, it's image. Image quit. And I'm going to capture the return even though it is void, because I don't want it being captured by COBOL and then claiming that it didn't shut down correctly. Okay, this one looks funny to me. I forgot the end. That's why it looks funny. Okay, so we are closing down the image module and then closing down SDL. So I'm going to try this one first. This is just bringing the image module online and then shutting it down again. But we don't have to change anything in our makefile because I actually have everything set up in the makefile that links the SDL, links SDL image, SDL TTF, and SDL mixer. So those are already, the linker is already set up for that. So it actually has everything in place. But if you're doing this from the command line, you would need to add the -L SDL2 underscore image to that, to your linker. Okay, so let's save this. And I'm going to do the make rebuild. And we can run it, but we won't see anything different yet because we haven't changed anything. And it's all running good still. That's a good sign. So now that we have brought the image module online, now we can load images that are PNG image. So our first function that we're going to be looking at is SDL load texture. And what this does is this loads an image from a PNG, not to a software surface, but actually directly. It probably internally loads it to a surface and then converts the surface to a texture. But for us, it's loading it directly to a texture. And this is going to be the reason why it's called a texture is because it's something that your graphics card deals with. It's actually hardware accelerated texture instead of a software surface that would normally be held in memory. The texture, I believe, might be held in video RAM memory, but it is an accelerated thing, and your game can run faster with texture. So everything we're working with here is going to be a texture. So this loads a texture. We need the render, and we need the file that we're loading, and we're going to return a heap allocated texture. So this is something we need to manage. So we're going to be freeing this in our cleanup. Okay, and if this is null, if this pointer to the heap allocated texture is null, then an error occurred. That's the failure of this function will return null, or it will turn on success, or will return a pointer to the heap allocated. So we'll be testing this for null. So this is the name of the function. And I will show you the image that we're going to be loading. It's in the images folder. And the image we're loading is background.png in the images folder. So for this, I'm not going to put this in the what do we call this? The procedure, the initialization procedure. I'm going to make a new procedure for this, and I'm going to call it load media, because I want to separate out. This to me is different. Initializing my system is one thing, and loading media, audio files, images, things like that, or music, is its own procedure. So we'll call it load media. And in load media, this is where we'll be calling our function. Okay, so this is the function, but we do need to pass parameters to this function. So we are going to pass by value the render because it's a pointer. So because it's already a pointer, we're just passing that pointer by value. And then we're going to pass in by reference a C style string. So this will be using and we'll say by value. And this will be the pointer that we've already created, the SDL render pointer. Weird that capitalized it there. Okay, and then by reference, we need a C style string that is the location of the file that we're loading. So it's going to start with the Z, and then that's for our C style string, and it's in folder images, and it's called background PNG. That is our C style string. See, and we are returning a background, a pointer to the background. So I'm going to make that now. I forgot to make that. So right up here where our pointers are, we have an arrow pointer, we have SDL window, SDL render. All these are pointers. I'm going to make another one called background. I just copied one of them and I'm going to modify it. So it'll be called background. Yep. Now we can access that down here. So that'll be our returning. Returning background. And then that will be the end of this call. Okay, so we are loading our image. We need to pass in the render. We need to pass in the string to where it's at, which is over here in images background. We are returning the heap allocated pointer background, which hopefully has been allocated, but if it's null, then we know that something went wrong. So to check if something went wrong, we can just check it the way we've checked other things that are returning null. I'm going to grab this one right here. See that we're checking if the window pointer was null. I'm just going to use that same one. I'm going to go down here. And what we're checking is we're checking background. Okay, so if background equals null, then, and we have the error loading texture, what we're doing. Error loading texture, that will move to there. Okay, so that is how we load a texture. Now, the way that we're unloading the texture is we're going to use this function here. So that was our image load texture function. This one is SDL destroy texture. This is not an image. This is not part of the image module. This is part of the normal SDL. Anything that, if you had loaded bitmap as a texture, anything that's already a texture, this is how you free it. So this one just takes the pointer and it returns void. But again, we are still capturing that void just because we don't want COBOL to complain. So this is the function name. And we are just passing in by value that background pointer that we already have. And that will be in the cleanup and exit. So I'm shutting down modules here, and up here I am freeing resources, freeing pointers. So I'm going to put this on the top because again, this is last in, first out. So if we think about, first we allocated a window on the heap, then we allocated a render on the heap, and then lastly we allocated background on the heap. So I want to remove background, or I want to free background. I want to destroy the render and then destroy the window. So I'm going to put this up here. And I can just do the same thing I was doing and just yank that and paste it. Whoops. Normal mode. And we are destroying a texture. And the value that we need is background. That's what we're destroying. And we are just capturing the return value even though we're doing nothing with it. So this is how we're going to load and unload, and we're going to check that real quick, and then I will show you that it is actually catching if we didn't load it. So first we run it normal, it looks good, okay. Now let's simulate an error by asking it to load the file misspelled, so the file won't exist. We'll just take off the G here. Now we should get an error message that should say error loading texture, :space, and then whatever, and it'll say something about this file wasn't found. And that did not happen, so we've made a mistake. Right, hold on, what am I doing wrong here? Let's look at this. I'm loading that, okay. So we have our texture, and background. This was unexpected. I didn't expect this to happen, so I must have something wrong with my whole setup here. I'm kind of inclined to print out what the value is there. Oh, there's nothing wrong here. I just remembered I have not called the procedure. I have not performed this load media procedure, so we haven't actually loaded the texture. So I'm going to leave it with it misspelled, and we're going to look for the error, but I need to perform this procedure. So that will be up here. We're going to initialize SDL, and then we're going to perform load media. That's why it's good to check these things, because you could be making all kinds of silly mistakes. Good to check often and in increments. So yeah, there we go. So there's our message, error loading texture, and this is what SDL has returned. Couldn't open image background because this file does not exist. Our file has a G at the end. So if we change that, so we know that our error handling is working and all the code is running through the way it should be. And it's down here in load media. Let's do that. So I fixed it now, and it should load and unload the background, but it's still not displaying it yet. That'll be the next step. So that looks great. So let's display it now. So the way that we're going to display it is we're going to put it in between the render clear and the render present that we've done before. And the way that we do that is with render copy. So this function render copy, it takes the render. So we got the pointer to the render, we got the pointer to the texture, which is background. And then we have a source rectangle, which is the what amount of the source image, the background image that we just loaded, how much of it we want to use. Like we could use just part of it by drawing a rectangle, say in the middle of it if we just wanted to see the center of it or whatever. But for us, we are just displaying a background image, so we're going to use the entire source. So it's going to be, we're going to be passing in null, and that is going to let us use the entire source of the image that we loaded. Then we have a destination rectangle, and this is the same thing. This is saying we could change the size or move the location of it depending on the rectangle that we want to draw this image in onto our canvas. But we actually want this thing to take up the entire canvas. So this is, again, going to be null. So for this image that we're using today, the source is going to be null. That means the entire source, and the destination is going to be null. So we're going to be drawing it on the entire render. So it's going to be stretched top and bottom, filling up the entire thing. But luckily our source image is 800 by 600, and our destination is 800 by 600. But if they were different, if say our width was 1,000 instead of 800, the image would actually be stretched to fit it, and it would look a little bit wonky. It would look wide, you know, kind of like if you're watching the old style TV shows with the 3:4 aspect ratio, and then you switch to the 16:9, or 6:9, sorry, it looks stretched if you haven't got the black bars on the side. That's what you would get. But for us, this background image is the same as what we're showing it on, so we can use null on both. In the future, we will be using these rectangles. So to do this, we're going to grab this function right here. It's called SDL render copy, and it's render with just one ER, not renderer. And we are going into the draw all right here. And this is where we're clearing the render, and this is where we're presenting it. So all of our drawing is going to happen in between. Okay, I'm just going to check my notes. Okay, we're doing null by reference. Fine. I think it works by value as well, but we'll just do by reference. So call got it before the and we're using so we have by value, we need the render first. We got render, background, and then null and null. And then our return value. We didn't look at the return value here. The return value is, I think it's 0 on success or negative code on failure. Now this is going to happen in our game loop. This is going to happen over and over again, 60 times a second. And I'm not going to check if it failed because I don't care if it failed. especially if it failed one time out of say 10,000 times it gets displayed. I don't mind. I care if it didn't load correctly, but if it didn't get displayed correctly just one frame, I'm not going to shut the game down for that. So even though this is returning whether it succeeded or not, I'm not going to check it, but I am going to capture it. I'm going to capture it but not test it. So we have, for our render, we're going to do it by value because it's already a pointer here. And that is just SDL render. And then we have by value the background pointer. And then we have by reference null. And I think by value may also work on this, but what I have written down is by value or by reference. Okay, now we're going to do the returning, and we're just going to use our normal return value for this one because we're just capturing it, but we're not using it. This is my general purpose return capture. And the end call. Okay, so we have punctuation, yes. So this is us clearing the render, this is us drawing the image, and this is us presenting. And again, this is happening in a loop because our game loop up here, right here, perform until playing equals 0. That means this is happening over and over again. So we're checking input, we're drawing all, which is the procedure we just showed there. We're delaying for 16 milliseconds, and then we're starting over again, checking input, drawing, delaying, checking input. We're just wrapping around over and over. And the 16 milliseconds is roughly 60 frames a second. So this cycle is happening 60 frames a second. So that render is being cleared every time and being drawn on and then being presented. We don't see the rendering and the drawing happening. We only see the presentation. So we won't see anything different. It'll just be the background drawn on it. Okay, so let's check this out. Hopefully we haven't made any mistakes. Okay, so we have SDL, simple direct media layer. And this is the background. And now the reason why we have black here is because the background of this image is transparent. There's an alpha channel in the PNG files. So since it's transparent, we're seeing the render, and the render is black. So in the next video, we're actually going to be changing the color of the render, so we'll see the color change of this background. So we're seeing how things can be overlaid, and you can see through images if they have an alpha channel. So that is the background being displayed. Let's just, I don't know if I've changed the name. No, I have open window, so that actually should have been closed window in the last video, and it should be background here. And down here at the bottom, we'll change it to background as well. Okay, and then the title right here, this is background. This is the title that's being displayed on your floating window manager, like on Windows or OS X or KDE, GNOME, something like that. Okay, so that is our background. Okay, and you can see the title right here. If you look on my screen right at the top here, if I hover over it, you see it says background. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go over what we just did. We have added a new constant here for initializing the image module with the image init PNG, and it's just a value of 2. Again, this is in the SDL_image.h header file, and it's going to be a pound defined somewhere in there, or an enum, but I think it's going to be a pound defined. I'm not quite sure. I can't remember on this one. We have also created a pointer to hold our background image. In the initialization, we are initializing SDL and checking that. we're initializing PNG, but we're checking it against the initial flag that we sent in to see if the flag is what we got out of it. So that's how we're initializing it, and we're shutting it down here. And I'm doing it right above the SDL quit. I'm doing the image quit right above that. I'm just capturing the return. I'm not doing anything with it. The image loading, we made a new procedure. Where is it? Load media. And right here, we're loading our image with image load texture. That's going straight to a accelerated texture. We're using our render and the string to the background image, and we are capturing the pointer back out of it with the return. We're testing that for null to see if that in fact did load. And we're unloading it down here by using SDL destroy image, and we're passing that image into it. The way that we're displaying this is in draw all. We're putting it between render clear and render present. This is where all of our drawing is going to happen, and it's going to go back to front. So whatever's on top, this one, is going to be in the background. If I put anything below it, it's going to be drawn in front of it. We'll see that later. So we are doing a render copy. We are passing in the render, we're passing in the image that we want, and then we're using null for the entire source of the image, or we're using null for the entire destination. And I will show you real quick what it looks like if it's stretched. So if we were to just change this by, say, 800 by 800, you know, so it's like a square. Or let's get a bit crazy with it. Let's say 1200. So it's going to be 1200 tall and 800 wide. I don't actually have 1200 high to deal with. Yeah, let's say 1080, because that's more like the resolution I have. And then we'll display this, and it should be, you should see that this image has stretched itself. See that? It's a stretched image. So that's because we're using null for the source and the destination, and it's fine. Later on, we will be using rectangles, but for the background, it's fine just to use null. And just make sure that that's working again. Good. Okay. So that's going to be it for this video, and thanks for watching.